Oh, Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, Minnesota suddenly has three major stories demanding attention. One revolves around a quarterback backup plan that barely registered on anyone's radar not long ago. Another touches a nerve involving one of the biggest stars this organization has ever produced. Brian Flores is sending a strong message that a new piece on his defense is already earning credibility behind closed doors. Individually, these feel like ordinary offseason topics. Put them together, though, and they start painting a larger picture of what this franchise may be building toward. Lately, every discussion about Minnesota's quarterback room feels like standing at a crossroads with signs pointing in different directions. It's not fear. It's not chaos. It's simply a situation filled with possibilities. The Vikings head into the season with Kyler Murray, Carson Wentz, and J.J. McCarthy sharing the room, and each name brings its own storyline. Murray showed up carrying a chip on his shoulder. Wentz offers a veteran presence. McCarthy continues trying to prove he can be the long-term solution, and because so many questions remain unanswered, another unexpected name has drifted into the conversation: Baker Mayfield. The veteran quarterback has recently been mentioned as a potential fallback option somewhere down the road if Minnesota's situation doesn't settle itself. Reports indicate Mayfield and Tampa Bay still aren't seeing eye to eye on extension talks, and Vikings fans immediately started connecting pieces of the puzzle. Now listen, nobody is suggesting this is right around the corner. It doesn't even seem especially probable today, but it absolutely resembles a pattern we've watched this franchise follow before. Minnesota has never hesitated to turn toward experienced quarterbacks when stability becomes a priority. The Brett Favre move, the Kirk Cousins era, even the decision to bring in Kyler Murray. Time after time, this organization has shown a willingness to secure experience at the game's most critical position. And that's the heart of this entire discussion: stability. Because J.J. McCarthy still hasn't fully nailed down his place. Injuries have slowed parts of his journey. Consistent production hasn't always followed. Vikings fans understand better than anyone that this team can't keep spinning its wheels waiting forever for clarity. Every season spent searching for answers at quarterback sends ripples across the rest of the roster. Meanwhile, another quieter storyline continues gaining momentum during OTAs. Undrafted rookie Dylan Bell keeps attracting attention. Reports indicate Kyler Murray has looked Bell's way repeatedly during practice sessions, and those kinds of patterns don't go unnoticed by coaches. Minnesota's top three receivers are outstanding, but the depth behind them still feels like an open audition. There is real opportunity available. That WR4 role is sitting there like an empty seat waiting for somebody to claim it. Bell looks determined to force his way into the conversation. Sure, it's only June, but Vikings fans have seen unexpected contributors leave breadcrumbs long before September ever arrives. Some rumors pass through the timeline without leaving a mark. Others hit like a flashing alarm and immediately grab your attention. This one belongs in that category, because the moment Justin Jefferson's future becomes part of a discussion, emotions take over the room. Recently, speculation emerged around a scenario where Minnesota might someday explore moving Jefferson if the quarterback position remains unsettled over the next several years. Relax for a second. Nobody is saying that's happening today. Nobody inside the building is campaigning for it. Honestly, trading Jefferson anytime soon would make very little football sense. He's still among the most dominant receivers in the league. He's still the engine of the offense, and he's exactly the kind of player franchises spend years searching for. But the reason these conversations appear at all is because football doesn't operate with sentiment. If Minnesota fails to secure a long-term quarterback answer, difficult crossroads eventually show up. That's the lens analysts use when discussing hypothetical blockbuster scenarios. Jefferson would instantly become one of the most valuable assets anywhere in the NFL. The draft return could be massive. The ability to position yourself for a future franchise quarterback could become much easier. That's why these discussions refuse to disappear, even when fans would rather avoid them. Looking strictly through a football lens, people understand the logic. Looking through the eyes of a Vikings fan, it's a completely different emotional experience. This fan base has watched Jefferson keep the offense afloat through uncertainty. Different quarterbacks, different situations, different obstacles, yet the production never stops. He continues turning impossible catches into everyday highlights. He continues giving people hope when things get messy. That's why seeing his name attached to trade speculation creates such an uneasy feeling. There's another angle here too. Jefferson wants to compete for championships. Every elite player does. He's already lived through years of quarterback changes and unanswered questions. If Minnesota struggles again and finds itself rebooting the quarterback position yet another time, those discussions could grow louder. Not because Jefferson lacks loyalty to the Vikings, not because the Vikings don't value him, but because championship opportunities aren't an endless resource. The positive news is that everything we're discussing remains hypothetical right now. The path forward is actually pretty simple. The Vikings need either Kyler Murray or J.J. McCarthy to establish themselves. If one of them does, most of these trade theories lose the oxygen keeping them alive. Until that happens, though, the conversation will continue hovering nearby, and that's why this storyline refuses to fade away completely. One lesson the NFL teaches every year is that depth often matters most when things start breaking down. Stars grab attention in the summer. Role players frequently determine outcomes once the season gets rough. That's exactly why Brian Flores' recent comments stood out. He wasn't offering routine praise about a new addition. He sounded like a coach who genuinely likes what he's seeing take shape. The player earning those remarks is James Pierre. Minnesota brought in the veteran cornerback this offseason because additional support was badly needed behind Byron Murphy Jr. and Isaiah Rodgers Sr. Before Pierre arrived, the depth chart looked thinner than Vikings fans were comfortable with. A single injury could have reshaped the entire secondary discussion. That's no longer where things stand. Flores referred to Pierre as a true professional, a veteran who brings maturity, preparation, chemistry, and reliability. Those aren't empty words coming from a coach with Flores' standards. This isn't somebody tossing compliments around like candy. Flores has worked with enough defensive backs to identify players who understand how to survive and contribute in this league. What may be even more encouraging is hearing about Pierre's relationship with Josh Metellus. Connections like that carry weight inside a locker room. Teams don't win solely because of talent. They win when players trust one another once adversity starts knocking at the door. Pierre appears to be earning that trust quickly, and while most fans are locked onto the quarterback battle, the defense remains one of the biggest pillars of this team's future. Flores has consistently found ways to elevate players beyond expectations. If Pierre develops into the dependable CB3 Minnesota hopes for, it provides flexibility and security that didn't exist a few months ago. It may not generate giant headlines, but these are exactly the kinds of moves that become important when playoff races tighten. At the same time, General Manager Nolan Teasley addressed the quarterback competition and embraced the reality surrounding it. He described the room as deep, talented, and highly competitive. More importantly, he highlighted the developmental environment Kevin O'Connell creates. Then came his comments regarding Kyler Murray. Teasley believes there's still another gear waiting to be unlocked. That's an intriguing observation, because if he's correct, and if O'Connell truly helps Murray tap into that potential, the direction of this franchise could shift much faster than many expect. Suddenly, the questions dominating today's conversations could look completely different before long. The upside is exciting, the uncertainty is still there, and that's exactly why Vikings fans are dissecting every practice update they can find. Quite often, the biggest clues don't come under stadium lights. They arrive when a player sits down and honestly explains where his mind is. That's what happened when J.J. McCarthy was asked about the trade speculation surrounding him. Ever since Kyler Murray joined the Vikings, there's been an obvious shadow hanging over the former first-round pick. Fair or not, people want clarity. Fans want it. Coaches want it. The organization wants it. Can McCarthy become the quarterback Minnesota envisioned on draft night, or has the plan shifted? Rather than dancing around the issue, McCarthy addressed it head-on, and truthfully, it felt sincere. He made it clear that Minnesota is where he wants to be. He wants to remain part of this organization. He believes Kevin O'Connell's system is where he can succeed. And perhaps most importantly, he sounded like someone who still sees plenty of unfinished business in purple and gold. That matters. Remember, this is the same player who famously told O'Connell before the draft that he'd run through a brick wall for him. That kind of conviction doesn't simply disappear. The problem is that confidence eventually has to show up on the field. The NFL demands that. Fans can admire commitment. Coaches can respect dedication. But quarterbacks are ultimately measured by results. That's why this upcoming competition feels so significant. Murray arrives with experience and upside. McCarthy enters fighting to protect his future. Neither outcome is guaranteed. And that's exactly what makes this one of the league's most compelling storylines. A breakout year for McCarthy reshapes the franchise's future outlook. A revitalized Murray would do the same. Even a dead-even battle throughout camp would force difficult choices on the coaching staff. Every possible road carries meaningful consequences. That's why his comments connected with so many Vikings fans. Not because every question suddenly disappeared, but because they served as a reminder that McCarthy still believes he can become the Minnesota Vikings quarterback. Not even remotely close to giving up. Now comes the difficult part, converting confidence into production once the pressure starts rising and the games begin to count. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, that's what makes this team so captivating right now. Questions seem to be around every corner, but so does optimism. Optimism that Kyler Murray reaches another level. Optimism that J.J. McCarthy proves he belongs. Optimism that players like Dylan Bell force their way onto the stage. Optimism that veterans like James Pierre strengthen this defense. And optimism that Justin Jefferson keeps guiding this franchise towards something bigger. Vikings Nation has walked through uncertainty before. We've endured heartbreak before. But we've also witnessed seasons that came out of nowhere and became unforgettable. So which of these storylines has your attention the most? Drop your thoughts below and join the conversation. And if you're riding through this offseason with us, make sure you're locked in for everything ahead. Keep the faith in the purple and gold. Skol.